Patch 13.8 is upon us with some nerfs, some buffs, and some other changes too. The first and very long awaited for nerf goes to Aurelion Sol, who's losing 5 health per level and 0.3 armor growth per level to make its early game even worse. The next goes to J4, who's losing 0.4 AD per level, and the Q is losing 10 flat damage at all levels. This should bring his high damage output slightly back in line. Following this, we have Kane's Shadow Assassin form, where he is losing 10% of his movement speed on his E, and the cooldown is going up to 10 seconds at all ranks. Next, we have Malphite, whose W is losing some of the flat damage as it's leveled, and the cleave from the W is losing 5% armor scaling, making his W max slightly less appealing. And the final nerf goes to Rakan, who's losing 2 base armor and 0.2 armor growth per level to reduce his survivability on his at the moment incredibly strong engage. The first buff goes to Ezreal, who's getting an increase of 2 base attack damage per level to allow him to be slightly more competitive against some of the late game hyper carries. The next buff goes to Garen, who is gaining 3 additional base attack damage and 2 additional base armor. These additional buffs will help him get back to the point where he's a fighter who can beat other fighters. Following this, we have Janna, whose W is getting 10 additional damage at all ranks, and her E's shield decay time is being extended to 2.5 seconds. With other disengage supports being incredibly strong at the moment, this should help bring her back in line. Next, we have Kha'Zix, who's getting a straight damage buff with his Q's base damage being increased by 10 at all levels. Following this, we have a big buff for Kog'Maw. Firstly, his passive will now grant him ghosting, so he no longer has those awkward moments where he's trying to blow someone up but gets creep blocked. In addition, the true damage that this ability deals is being increased at all levels. In addition to this, his Q is now going down to a flat 7 cooldown at all levels, which is incredibly strong as a lot of Kog'Maw's trades live and die by landing that Q. And probably the most significant buff is his E's being increased at early levels, where it will now cost significantly less mana at early ranks, and the slow is also being increased at these early ranks, making it far more effective with a single point in this ability. Next, we have Leona, whose W is getting a large buff, giving her 5 additional armor and 5 additional magic resist at all levels. In addition, the magic damage the shield deals when exploding is being increased by 10 damage at all levels, with all of these changes allowing her to engage far easier. Following this, we have Lilia, who is getting a large buff to her passive, especially when it comes to jungling. Firstly, the damage cap her passive can deal against monsters is being increased, the healing from her passive against monsters is being increased at all levels, and the damage the passive does against champions is losing some flat damage but gaining a large amount more AP scaling, simply making it scarier and scarier the more AP she can buy. Next, we have Nidalee, who's gaining 4 base armor and 0.3 armor per level. Where these changes don't sound too significant, it will allow her to have far more health during her first jungle clear, which allows her to make far more plays around the map early game. And the final buff we have goes to Poppy, whose Q will now deal 9% of the target's health and damage, and the W will now give 12% bonus resistances. These bonuses will of course also be doubled to 24% when she's below 40% health. We also have a rework for Cosmic Drive, which starts firstly with the ability power being increased from 90 up to 100, and in addition it's getting a new unique passive, where damaging a champion generates a stack of movement speed every 1.5 seconds over the next 5 seconds up to a maximum of 4 stacks. At 4 stacks you gain additional movement speed, and dealing damage will refresh this effect. And it should be interesting seeing which champions will pick this up. Personally, I have a friend who's a Teemo main who's a little bit too excited about this new item. Other than that, Prestige True Damage Senna, Prestige Nightbringer Kayn, and Mythic Chroma Dawnbringer Riven are all coming into the Mythic shop, with Prestige Fuzz Fizz and Prestige Ascended Pantheon being rotated out, with Renekton, Vayne, J4 and Nasus getting new skins.